Let's go around. I don't think we need, everybody's here, and yeah, why don't we go around anyway, so it's on the recording, so everybody. Okay, Tom, Frank, Chair. Everybody just say your name, hopefully in alphabetical order. Yeah.
Maxie Hewins, Vice Chair, former Fletcher Library Director.
Adrian, you're there?
Yes, I am, and I'm Adrian Katz, and I'm a librarian at the St. Johnsbury Athenaeum.
Okay.
And I'm Debbie. We couldn't hear you, but I'm Bruce Post. I've been on the board for 11 years. My last term officially expired on, was it February 28th or 29th? Yep. I don't know if we were in a leap year or not, but we can serve until somebody
until you're replaced. Yep.
Appoints us. Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, okay. So Bruce is still on, and past chair for what, 200 years or something like that. Okay. And then we couldn't hear you. Well, Deb, we couldn't hear.
Well, I had myself on mute. This is Deb Granquist. I'm on. Okay. I'm the same thing as Bruce. I am the retired, well, not yet retired, I guess the past vice chair, and I serve on the board of the library in Weston.
Okay, and Linda? Or is Linda still muted there? You can see her, right?
Linda is not in the meeting.
I think we lost her. She was here, and I think it's
okay.
not. Oh, that might be her.
Oh, and James is coming in.
There's James. Yeah, okay. So James come in, and we're just saying our names, James. So, and where we're from.
He's probably just logging on.
Yeah, just logging in. Yeah.
Kathy is here, of course.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Delnao. I am the state librarian and commissioner of libraries and secretary to the board, and I'm here.
Okay, we might as well do everything once again. So the recording, we have it. There's Janine. The other staff, so we have it on the record.
Jeanette Schaefer, Assistant State Librarian for Library Advancement.
Okay.
Tom McMurdo, Assistant State Librarian, Information and Access. It looks like James is in the meeting now.
Okay. And then, and there's Linda, just got back in. Okay. Yep. So, James, if you just say your name and where you're from, we're just doing it for being on the record.
I understand. James Saunders from Plainfield, Vermont.
Okay. Thank you, James. And it's Linda. You got muted, Linda. So
I did get. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm on. I'm sorry. I had so much trouble getting on today. I had to. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Took me 10 minutes. I'm I'm sorry. What do you want? I'm Linda Sarnioki. I'm from Weston, Vermont.
Okay. So everybody is here. Now the next question: are there any guests that wish to speak or be part of it? Okay. With no guest, I'll ask, are there any additions, corrections to the agenda on items that or somebody wants to speak on that are not on the agenda? Okay, somebody raised their hand.
It's me, Kathy Delnao.
Oh, okay.
I recommend moving the 3 naming topics related to the Bakersfield Brooks to the Vermont Board of Libraries meeting on either July 12th or October 11th, 2020. This recommendation is based on the fact that the Bakersfield Select Board was scheduled to discuss the naming of some of those brooks last night, so there hasn't been sufficient time for us to connect with them. And additionally, our team wasn't able to post all of the supporting documentation related to the Bakersfield Brooks to the board's website at least 48 hours in advance of today's meeting. So we would recommend moving that. We do have, I heard from April Shaw, who is a member of our team here.
Well, I would say what we'll do is we'll add that to the agenda right after the minutes. Where we're going to do the hearing, instead of doing the hearing, we'll just take a,
Okay.
we'll add that to the agenda and just, so we don't get out of order here.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the next thing on the agenda are the minutes, and Bruce has been diligently checking them out.
I'm such a nudge.
Yes,
So
I knew I could rely on.
there aren't, I mean, really, they're just tiny little, edits. And I think I've only changed 2 words. On first page under organizational meeting, Bruce Post explained that he and Deb Granquist terms, and I changed he to his. And I have just a couple little commas that I'm not going to take any time up. I can send them in to Josh with your approval. So there you go.
Yeah, just send them in. Okay.
And thank you, whoever did the minutes. Thank you very much. They were very good. Appreciate it.
Okay, and then anybody else? Are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. So
Second.
moved. Tom, I don't think I received the minutes and the agenda. I looked and looked and couldn't find them. Could you, maybe Kathy, maybe Josh, whoever sent them originally, could they resend them to me? I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
And this is Deb, and I have that same comment.
Well, hi, this is Bruce. I had to grab them from the website.
Oh, you grabbed them from the website. Okay.
I didn't think to do that. Okay.
And I had, but I would, okay, you got them from the website. So if you want to, we can table the approval until the July minute if you wish to do that. Or we can simply, those that have seen them, think that they were sent to me because I read them. But I don't know if they were sent to the board, and I would make the recommendation that not only just to the website, but okay, because they would have been sent, and they were sent, I believe, within 5 days of the meeting. So they were way back in January when they would have been sent to us.
Sorry.
This is Kathy. I just want to confirm that I do see record of them having been sent, but Josh, you probably know more than me.
I was just going to say, well, you may be ahead of me on that. It is possible that they only went out to Tom and they may and the website, and they may not have gone to everyone. So if that's the case, I apologize profusely, and we will rectify that.
Okay.
Can I back in December 30th?
I didn't hear that, Kathy.
I'm seeing an email that looks like they were sent out to the board, including Linda and Deborah, back on December 30th. So they're quite a while back in your inbox.
That's a different meeting.
That's a different meeting.
Oh, that's
January.
A different meeting.
Yeah, the January meeting would be the ones, and I think I got them like in 5 days afterwards. So when did we meet? The 12th or? No, the second Tuesday of January, and I think if they were sent out, and I remember correctly, they would have been sent out because I was thankful that they were sent out timely because we had problems before. Yeah.
This is Bruce. Tom, I guess it doesn't do you much good if we use the raise hand icon because you can't see it. So I'll just ask to speak just briefly. And for Kathy's edification, if she doesn't already know it, under law, the draft minutes are supposed to be posted within 5 days. We had a considerable problem with that over the past few years. And so Josh has been doing that since he started taking on this role, and I want to thank Josh for that. So there you go. But no, I don't remember ever getting these minutes either. That's why I went and looked on the website and grabbed them.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry.
Well, you know, it doesn't matter to me whether I get them via email or I have to go on the website. If it's easier for everybody to just put them on the website, then and the agenda on the website, then we can do that. We just need to be clear as to where they're going to be.
Right. Okay. And then the web. Yeah, we probably can do, if it's agreed upon, we can just do the website, and Kathy's working with the website, correct?
Yes.
That'll be but that will be in the update, but it's appropriate right now that you're working on the website to make it pretty accessible. So,
yeah, I think for our purposes, what we should do, I think as the secretary, I should alert the board members when the minutes are posted. That might be a good way to do it when and then, you know, I can attach them, but I can also just point you to the website when they are up within 5 days after each of our board meetings.
Right, and you can probably just attach a link that'll take us right to it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I have a raised.
And
I
this
know
is
I have
Deb.
a raised hand. Yeah, go.
This is Deb. I don't mean to be a pain, but I also didn't get the agenda. So is the agenda on the website?
It is currently there.
Okay, thank you.
Put the agenda in the, maybe one of our team members, I see April is here. April, if you could just put the agenda into the link to the agenda in the chat thread.
This is Bruce. Can I make a comment, Tom?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the way I was able to grab it relatively easily, I know we've starting to have discussions about navigating the website, but when I went to the department's homepage, there was an alert for meetings and things like that. It had our meeting listed. I clicked on that link, which brought me to the board's section of the website, and then I just scrolled down to this date, and that's where I got the agenda and I got the draft minutes. That's how I did it. It was relatively easy because I saw that posting that we had a meeting scheduled. So there you go.
Yeah, and that might have been the way I got them because I remember reading them. Yeah. So I would say we should table the approval until everybody has a chance to read them. Go ahead. Somebody raised hand.
Yes, I did, Linda. While we're on the subject of communication with the board, I wonder if we could, and I think this is just a matter of changes in administration on all sides here, but we used to get the, I think it's the Vermont Libraries Board, no, it's the Vermont Library newsletter or something. Jason has been forwarding it to us, but we used to get it from the library itself. Maybe he was the one who was sending it out, but I really like reading that. So it would be helpful to be put on the distribution list for that again. Do you know what I'm referring to? I'm sorry, I don't have the right name for it.
Yeah, because I've gotten, the state newsletter. I get 2 editions. One said from Jason, and I wonder if that's just set up that Jason had it automatically sent out. I don't think Jason sends it from Washington. It just might have been an automatic thing. So just so each board member gets a copy of the state, your monthly newsletter, which is really good.
Newsletter. Yeah, we can add you to that distribution list. It is curious. Linda, maybe you can forward me one of the emails from Jason because we'll be able to see then if he's been sending it to you from DC. I wasn't aware that Jason would still have a vermont.gov email address, so we should check on that.
Okay, I will try to find one. Thanks.
Thank you.
I believe Jason sends it out on his own, not Library of Congress, but his own personal email. Because
okay.
I I think the last one, he said, this may be redundant, but
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
leads me to believe that is intentional on his part to send it. And Maxie makes a good point about Jason. They have very strict rules at the Library of
Yes.
Congress about using his phone or his email for anything that might be interpreted as personal. So if he sends it on his personal email, that's why he's doing it.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And I can email him and said, yep, thank you very much, Jason. What we've corrected that to make sure that all the board members get a copy of it. He might send it out to other people as well. Or we can just, if you get a redundant one from Jason, you can always thank him.
It's great. Yeah.
It doesn't hurt anything that we get two, because I always get 2 copies, so I don't know where the one comes from, but the one always comes from Jason, and they're identical.
well, I've been getting only one, just the one from Jason.
Okay. Well, let's make sure everybody gets a copy of.
Perhaps, I don't know if I can be heard.
Yes.
Trying technical difficulties. And this is something for the Department of Libraries to consider if they wanted to share what the Vermont Department of Libraries resources that they provide to the libraries on the listserv, perhaps sending some of those emails that Jeanette or Josh send with informative news. Some of the emails were during Jason's tenure were duplicates of what he sent, but he sent us information in advance as well. So that might be information that the board may be curious to learn more and be part of one of those listservs, or a different listserv, or a different group.
Okay, we have a couple of raised hands. Go ahead.
This is Kathy. We can, I'm just thinking it might make sense based on what we've heard and what you're sharing. I mean, of course, the first step is to ensure that you're all receiving the newsletter, and Tom, Jeanette, and I we will work on that right away. But we also could share we could share a list of all of the groups, all of the email groups that we have at the State Library. I do want to warn you that it's kind of a lot, so it may be better to just, and we also would need to be really careful about interacting with any of those emails, because that could constitute a violation, I think, of the open meeting law. So that could be why Jason sent those things to you directly in the past that he thought would be the most timely. I doubt that any of you need all of the emails of any of these groups, because they kind of flood my inbox, and it'll even be things like, we have an extra book, does anyone want to buy it for $20? I'll send it to you. So not always germane, but certainly the communications from us going out, we could find a way to loop you, that I can loop you in on those, or that Tom and Jeanette can loop you in for the things in their departments.
Yeah, that's something that would be relevant, because then, yeah. But I like the newsletter because it's bringing up everything that's new and everything. So, and we can't do the hearing until 11:30 because in case somebody wants to drop in on it. So anything so why don't we discuss this until, and once again, do we wish to table, actually, we haven't gotten the minutes, everybody. So do you want to amend your motion to table it until the July meeting?
Was it my motion?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, so we will amend the reading of the minutes or approval of the minutes till the July meeting.
And does the second approve? Who seconded it, and do you approve?
I think I did. I'll be happy to go with Maxie's amendment.
Okay. Any other discussion on this matter? So if not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay. So we'll bring that up and we'll make sure it gets there. And then, yeah, we had problems getting it out, but also we don't have, let's see. So anything, why don't we bring just on the website until 11:30, and then we'll talk about the hearing, open the hearing, and then you can, Kathy, give your update on there at that time, and then we'll make the decision.
Okay. So did you want me to share the plans that we have to update the Board of Libraries website now, Tom?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Sure, that'd be a good idea. Yeah.
Sure. So let me just find my notes. I think that the conversation you've been having this morning really speaks to the fact that we need to make things a little bit easier to find and more accessible and organized on our website for the Board of Libraries. And I had some recommendations of steps that we can take, trying to find them now in all of my notes. Bear with me. One of the things was to add a supporting documents PDF with the additional resources that we would be sharing at each of the meetings. So having an agenda, having the draft minutes up there, and then also having any presentations people have prepared in advance, along with supporting documents. So for example, if we're going to have a naming conversation, that we would have the packet of materials that you as members of the board need to make your determination. Sharing those with the public is also a good idea, we think, and something that we'd like to add to that. With regards to the naming work, the geographic naming, right now the webpage hasn't been updated in a while, and so it actually looks like the document that talks about recent decisions in naming is related to roads and bridges, which of course the Board of Libraries doesn't have the authority to name at this point. So we were going to pull that down and just make the process a little bit clearer as far as how that naming work goes, and sort of getting the pieces of the packet onto the page. So an updated letter from the state librarian, probably very much the same content as Jason Broughton's letter, but just with my name, a new date, and the signature. The Vermont state statutes as a separate PDF that are relevant to naming, the geographic naming petition form as another PDF, and then the geographic naming signature form, this where the petitioners put their names. So having those directly discoverable with one click from that landing page of the Vermont Board of Libraries. I also noticed they may not be clear to folks unless they go deep into statutes, who you are, how you got here as members of the board. So just adding a little sentence or two that talks about, you know, how you're nominated or how you're appointed by the you're appointed to the board, the term limits, things like that, just explaining that to the public. So before we made those changes, I just wanted to mention it to you and make sure that you all thought it was seeming like a good idea. We also wanted to put up, it always helps me, I'm a little bit calendar challenged. And so it helps me to avoid conflicts by knowing in advance what the meeting dates are. So, you know, looking at the calendar for the year and finding the every 3 months on the second Tuesday from 10 to 12, putting those dates on the website so people know when the dates are coming. So that's sort of just a housekeeping that we were going to do here in the Department of Libraries, and I didn't want to startle any of you with it. So I had mentioned it to Tom Frank.
Hi, this is Bruce. This is Bruce. Just have a question. I think I left your report downstairs, Kathy, but at some point you said that instead of having you know, one of those contact forms, you would actually have a name and a phone number.
You're
which
right.
I think that is, believe it or not, fantastic. I hate those damn forms, I'll tell you.
Too.
and so you then get that contact early on, which is very important, because when we did the Negro Brook thing the first time around, this guy went off on his own and assumed all sorts of things before he talked to anybody. And talking to someone ahead of time facilitate the process and clear some things up. So I think that's a tiny little change that makes a big difference. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Linda. I think the changes that you've proposed make good sense. I really like making those geographic naming forms as accessible as possible for people, and I also like as Bruce said, I like the contact form change, and I like the idea of putting up the dates of the meetings ahead of time. That list of meetings for the year, or however many you want to put up there. But I think that helps the public as well. If they want to join one of the meetings, they know when they're going to be. So thank you for that analysis of what we have and don't have and what we need. That was great.
Welcome.
Okay, anybody other comment on the website? Because it's almost 11:30 here, so. Okay. If not, then let's go on to the hearing. It was warned for Page Brook, School Brook, and Heron Brook in Bakersfield, Vermont. So that we're going into the hearing now. So first of all, now we go back to you, Kathy. Sorry about that. So it's officially on the record during the hearing. The update on what's happening there.
Thank you, and sorry for raising it at the wrong moment.
No. That's me. So yeah, we just got the other one done a little early. That was it. Yeah.
Well, so as I was sharing earlier, I recommend that we move these 3 naming topics related to Bakersfield Brooks to our meeting of the Board of Libraries on either July 12th or October 11th of this year. And this recommendation is based on the fact that the Bakersfield Select Board, we understand they were scheduled to discuss the naming of at least one of the brooks last night. And we haven't had sufficient time to connect with them and find out what they determined. And additionally, as I was sharing in the minutes topic, we really want to be posting more of the documents online for the public to see on our website and for you all to see in advance. So having these 3 Bakersfield Brooks names considered at a later meeting will give us time to put the materials that we've received recently online. And the reason we're recommending either July 12th or October 11th is that when April Shaw, who's been in the absence of the executive assistant for the Department of Libraries, April has been wrangling the naming for us, which we really appreciate. April had tentatively lined up 2 naming topics for July 12th. One is Root Brook in Montpelier. The other is Bumblebee Brook in Shelburne, which I would really like to visit Bumblebee Brook. That sounds lovely. April could change those July 12th, those 2 who are tentatively scheduled for July 12th, she could move them to October 11th, or alternately, we could delay these 3 Bakersfield Brooks until October 11th. But I wanted to bring that to you all to decide.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead there.
At one point, Tom, you suggested that we could have a special meeting because a special naming meeting, because as we know, these naming meetings can sometimes be very time consuming, and then we don't have time to get to other things that may be equally important. So have you given some consideration to possibly having a special meeting?
Yeah, we might have to do that. The thing is, we thought we had all our ducks in a row, and it turns out Bakersfield didn't have all their ducks in a row, that they didn't have approval from the select board. And I guess at a meeting, they rejected. Did they actually reject it in the past? Heron Brook was one of the, oh yeah, that was known as Bucks Brook. The Heron was known as Bucks Brook. One of my ancestors or something along that line. So not only did they not have approval for all three. They had an opposition to one of them. So they just, you're correct. They don't. So what's everybody, and it might not take long, but you're probably correct. It could be a while. So what, and
Yeah.
Kathy, you're new, so then Bruce also, your opinion on this.
Well, first of all, for context, I think we first took up Page Brook in October of 2019. I'm not sure.
Yep, that's
And
correct.
Josh,
Yes.
that was Josh's last meeting, and he raised a question that they had misidentified something. So, and then we had approved them, I don't know, a year later, and then we got caught up with the enacting thing, so we had to reopen and go again. So, do we have to reschedule for a certain date at this time? Because if we can, I'd hate to put three of them together in a regular meeting. That's for sure. If staff could get in touch with the Page Brook, folks up in Bakersfield, and this thing is all ironed out, we hopefully could take care of it very quick, and we could do it at the next meeting. They've been hanging fire so long. I'd like to get done with it. And if that could be done quickly, we can put off the, I don't know. I have to leave that to the staff's discretion.
Yeah,
but,
and then I agree, Bruce. That would be a good alternative to say, because if they got all their ducks in a row, we just can't have a special meeting or any meeting because it has to be warned within 30 days ahead of time. And we could have a special meeting if they have everything in line, and April and Kathy has a new assistant, and then we could just run through it very fast and not have to do it in July. And if they don't, well, then we determine, because you had a question, Kathy, how long can one table a petition?
Yes, that's a good question.
I don't think
I want to credit April Shaw with that question.
Well,
and
maybe.
I don't see anything that says, I don't see any information that answers that question, how long one of these processes can play out for. Do they need a new petition to bring it after so long, if it began in 2019? But these have been extenuating times as well, so perhaps the burden of a new petition isn't necessary as long as they're still interested in this activity.
Well, I don't think necessarily need a new petition unless they tweak one of the names for which they had a petition with a name. And then that complicates things because we do have to act on that petition.
Yeah.
And if they all agreed that, oh, it shouldn't be this name, it should be that name, we would then have to defeat the first petition and then approve the second one if the second one's in order. I think that's how it works, because you remember on Enigma Brook, they wanted to withdraw their petition, and we got advice from the assistant AG, no, you have to deal with it. So.
Okay, somebody has a hand raised.
This is Kathy. I'm learning more information right now from my team. April has shared that, for context, all of these three brooks are connected from the same source, and that was why it made some sense to do them together. So we were in one geographic area, one source. The petition, it's also been shared that the petitioners have sort of been pushing out the date. So it isn't that we haven't been responsive, it's that we've been responsive by giving them more time. And I'm also hearing from April that she understands that the Heron Brook petition may be withdrawn. So we would definitely want to get clarity on that and have them formally withdraw any petitions. And they seem to be replacing Heron Brook with Bubs Brook.
And
so it sounds like they would need a new.
Yeah, what as Bruce has said, we still would we could act on the 3 petitions. And if they had it and it was warned in ahead of time, for example, we could, let's say we had a special meeting in 2 months. We could meet, we would still have to act on those 3 petitions. We could approve Schoolbrook, we could approve Pagebrook, we could deny Heronbrook. Then we could then simply say, if they submitted a new petition for bucks or bugs or whatever brook it was, then we could act on that one.
Well, can I make a motion?
Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
I'll make a motion so that we postpone consideration of the Pagebrook, Schoolbrook, Heronbrook petition or / petitions to a date to be determined. And I think we're well within our rights to do that.
Okay.
This is Deb. I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just have a question, and that is if the applicant wants to withdraw one of those petitions, we would not actually, as long as they did it prior to the hearing, obviously prior to the hearing, but as long as they did it, we would not have to go through hearing that and denying it. So I think that if they wanted to withdraw, that would take care of that petition application, and we'd only have to hear the 2. And it seems to me that one of the things that is good to do is some level of communication with the applicants to explain, to just make sure they know what has happened on our end and give them the opportunity to respond, to tell us what they want to do. Because I think for us to sit around and think about, well, maybe they're going to withdraw, maybe they're not going to withdraw, maybe they want to do it in July, maybe they want to do it whenever. I don't think that's helpful. I would actually have someone contact them and find out exactly what they want to do.
Hi, this is Bruce. Can I respond a bit?
Go, Bruce. Yep.
Well, in terms of communication, yes, obviously. And we've gone, we had Lauren dealing with it, and then thank goodness April got in. But I'll go back. I think we got this advice from, is it Jacob, who's our assistant AG? I can't remember his first name. But as more information emerged on the Negro Brook proposal to change it to Susanna Toby Brook, and issues came up around the name Toby, they wanted to withdraw their petition. And the advice we got, if I remember correctly, and I'd have to look at the minutes, was
and
that
you're correct, Bruce.
Yeah, we had to actually vote on it, and we had to defeat it. And part of the problem was they have people that have signed the petition. You would have to contact all of the petition signers, and if 1 or 2 said, no, we don't want you to withdraw. So we have to act on anything that's been submitted officially and then go from there. So if Heronbrook, they want to change it, we've got that pending. And then it gets complicated. If it's tied up with Page and Schoolbrook as a package, do we have to defeat the package? I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's separate petitions now, and April can. The other thing on that is that can't withdraw before the hearing. This is a hearing on it. We've had several hearings, and then we've tabled the decision on it. So this is actually an official hearing on it. So it's submitted, and I believe that was the from the AG's office that we just deny it, and then that, like Heron, it's gone. And I believe there are 3 separate petitions, and we did it that way so it isn't necessarily a package. For example, we could approve Pagebrook, but we don't even have the approval or how the meeting went last night with the select board up there, so we can't. We don't have adequate information. Is that correct? April would know that And you said with that, Kathy, we haven't heard from them, so we don't know what the outcome is.
So this is Linda. So I thought perhaps the distinction was that if we had already heard the petition, it couldn't be withdrawn at that point. But what, Bruce, what you seem to be saying is that if they have submitted a petition, whether we have heard it or not, if they've actually sent it to the library, state library, then they cannot just withdraw that. Even if they know there are errors in it or whatever, they can't withdraw it until we've denied it. And then they can withdraw it. That seems just needlessly bureaucratic.
No, I think what it means is we vote against it, period. Then they have the option as of petitioners. I hate to go into all these details. I'm sorry for that, but it is our statutory responsibility. This is the one thing we really have power. They have the option of resubmitting a petition. And that was what would happen with the Negro Brook issue. A petition can always be submitted to change the name of Negro Brook or any other feature. We defeated changing Mount Ascutney. That doesn't prohibit someone from then coming in and having a new petition. And as we explained it to the Negro Brook petitioners, we had to act on that petition. It could not be withdrawn. We defeated the petition after quite a bit of debate. And I don't know where things are now with that, but that's why we had to do it. And if I remember correctly too, I think from a parliamentary point of view, we actually have to vote to open a hearing. Then we have the discussion, then we close the hearing, and then we act as the Board of Libraries, I guess, to make our decision. But that's where we are. Of course, I have a motion there now, so we have to, this is our discussion. But I hope I answered your question, Linda. That's my recollection. And I think that's what we need to do.
Yep, same here. That's my recollection, that no matter what, you have to act on the petition that was submitted. And it is bureaucratic, and that's why we are a bureaucracy. What can I say?
Well, yeah, and I think we should make that. Kathy, I haven't seen the all the documentation and the directions for how to apply for a geographic naming. How to send it. Well, anyway, I don't know what those documents say, but it ought to be clear there that it cannot, once it's submitted, it cannot be withdrawn until the board acts on it. I think they just need to know that.
And this is Bruce again. If we're going to put that on, I think we do have to check with our assistant AG again, because that's what I think the advice was. And perhaps this is what we want to say specifically on the advice of counsel. You cannot withdraw a petition once it's submitted. It has to be acted on by the board affirmatively or negatively, so I'm throwing that to staff, but that's what I thought. Bye.
This is Deb, and I think that if we are going to approach the AG's office to get some clarification, I think it would be worth getting the clarification that Linda just enunciated, because I can understand that once a petition has started the hearing process, that it cannot be withdrawn or amended but it does seem, as she said, awfully bureaucratic to not allow a petition to be withdrawn ahead of time if it hasn't been, if a hearing hasn't started, because the petition, there's an applicant, and the applicant is a person, and that one of the requirements is that the applicant get a petition signed by X number of people. So I don't know. I think we may be dancing on the head of a pin here, but I do think that it's worthwhile if we are going to the AG to just ask that specific question.
And then I would say after we get the answer, Kathy, that would confuse what you're already planning on doing would really be beneficial to everybody, because that information on how to apply and all that would be great on the website, because we can always just check the website. These are what you have to do. But remember, the petition has been, and we've already held, we're already holding a hearing, and we had a hearing. This is just a tabled time that we're doing. So it is a petition that has been brought in front of a hearing with testimony, and it was just tabled for clarification. And the last time it was ready to be, it was approved, but somebody brought up, and that was in Negro Brook, that did you check with the Abenaki? So the answer was no. And we said, would you be willing to? And the petitioner said, yes, we will be willing to check with them. And then they're, yes, and then we're going to bring it back again.
So that was the Page Brook naming?
Correct.
This is Bruce. Yes, we did have a special hearing.
Yes.
And it was early December, I don't know, 2020 maybe. And we had Page Brook first, and then we had Negro Brook second. And it was during the Page Brook thing that somebody, I think with the Grafton or Townsend group, said, well, did you, and so that's why we had approved it. We reconsidered, then we decided to table. And essentially we have something on the table, and all we have to do is move it from the table into the hearing, But I also think Deb is absolutely right, and Linda's too. Let's get the Assistant AG to give us some official guidance that we could make part of the process by which we inform people ahead of time.
Yeah. Okay. So
Kathy, so I just want to, I think it would be helpful to me if those of you who have specific questions, you've phrased them much better than I was able to write the notes. And I know I can go back through the video and watch it, but members of the board may have additional questions that come to you. So if you could just individually send your questions for us to get guidance from our council, don't email the entire group, just email me with your questions, and I'll kind of bring the cluster, the whole group of questions. I'm imagining some of you will have the same questions, but I think that would be helpful, because when I have his attention and we've got him there thinking about this topic, I'd like to be sure that I've relayed your questions well. So I think the best way to do it is for you to individually just email me so that I can gather that information and then bring it to a meeting I set up with council.
Okay, and I think about time. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and that's to postpone it until the additional information is gathered, and that would be from the attorney and all of that. Are there any other further discussions on the motion? And that was simply to postpone the decision or the hearing, close it, and then reopen it at a future date once all these questions are answered. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, there we go. So, and then, so if you have any questions or whatever, just, okay, so I need a, yeah, we should have come out of it before we made that motion. That's okay, Bruce. Do we have a motion to close the hearing?
I make a motion, we close the hearing on the petition regarding Page Brook, Schoolbrook, and Heron Brook in Bakersfield.
Okay.
I second.
Anybody?
I second.
Oh, okay. Maxie seconds. Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions. Okay, so that hearing is closed. Now, Yeah. Welcome for your first board meeting here, Kathy. Baptism by fire. What can I say? Now, the state librarian and commissioners report. There we go. The update now.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom, for welcoming me, and thank you to everyone on the board for jumping right in with me. Just to formally introduce myself, my name's Catherine Delnau. I go by Kathy frequently, and I became the state librarian of Vermont and the commissioner of the Department of Libraries on February 13th, but really I started on Valentine's Day, and I think that's apropos because I've really loved this introductory period here at the state library. I've been working closely with the two assistant state librarians, Tom McMurdo and Jeanette Schaefer, and the whole team at the Department of Libraries to come up to speed with all of the great work that's already in progress at the Vermont Department of Libraries. I want to extend deep gratitude to both Jeanette and Tom for keeping our ship sailing in a straight line during this interim time. I know that it has been challenging. Any change in leadership is challenging for an organization. I want to particularly thank Tom for his work as the interim state librarian. I really appreciate all of the expertise and the knowledge that Tom brings to his work every day. And I appreciate how great both Tom and Jeanette have been in meeting with me. We have met almost every day, and there is still more to learn. We have leadership meetings where they cover different topics. Just a little bit about me so you know where I came from. I was born in Burlington and grew up in South Burlington, and I attended public school at Orchard School and South Burlington Middle School. And then I went to Rice Memorial High School for my high school years. And my dad was a teacher there, so we can talk about that sometime, but wasn't the normal setup. I went to college in Poughkeepsie, New York at Vassar College and have an undergraduate degree in philosophy. After college, I moved on to grad school at the State University of New Jersey, Rutgers, and I was in the New Brunswick campus where they have a library science program. I stayed in New Jersey for about 8 years and then found that I was looking to try some different things, including management, and I moved out to California where I worked for San Francisco Public Library, first as the park branch manager from about 2006 to 2012, and then as the assistant chief of Maine, and then finally as the chief of branches. San Francisco has, it's not we anymore. San Francisco has a 27 branch system serving the whole city and county of San Francisco. And I think you can tell that I'm just thrilled to be back in my home state, and I'm really excited to be supporting our many public school and academic libraries and getting reacquainted with Vermont. And I love that there's this lens of libraries. So everywhere that I'm driving, I'm looking out for the libraries, and I've started visiting our libraries. Last week, Tom and I visited Waitsfield, Warren, Brandon, and Middlebury. And I have now rekindled my urge to hit the road and hear firsthand from our librarians and community members across the state about how we can support them here in the Department of Libraries. So in addition to me, there are some other new folks who are in our team since you last convened. Tanya Riles is our new governance and management consultant. Tanya started on February 28th, and she joins us from Northeast Arkansas, bringing 14 years of public library experience to her position. She has extensive experience working with library boards, and most recently was the director of a multi-branch library in Arkansas. Tanya attended Williams Baptist University and was an English major, and then she went on to obtain a master's in information science from the University of Michigan. I'm also pleased to introduce you to Lauren Kelly. Lauren is our most recent addition to the Department of Libraries and is serving in the long vacant technical services librarian position. We are seeing lots and lots of books moving through her workspace. She is on fire. She comes to us, she's been working as a librarian in Vermont. She's from Heinsberg and has worked as a cataloger at the Stowe Free Library and the Burnham Memorial Library, which I believe is in Colchester. And she attended Syracuse University, where she got her master's in library and information sciences. And she's a fellow philosopher, and she studied philosophy at St. Mike's College for undergrad. And my final hiring update is one that I know that you'll be excited about. We have continued our search for the executive assistant for our department. And Jeanette Schaefer, Tom McMurdo, and I make up the hiring committee. And I don't have something specific. Oops. I don't have something specific to say to you today as far as when that person will start or who that person will be. But I think that within the next couple of weeks, we should have an update. I'm very hopeful we'll have an update for you. Another topic I wanted to share out with you is that our working group on the status of Vermont libraries has been moving along. That group has now met 4 times, and we most recently met on March 25th to hear testimony on the topic of facilities. And per the bill that establishes the work group, we could specifically study whether library facilities and buildings could be improved with regard to energy efficiency, flexibility, human health and safety, historic preservation, and intergenerational needs. Through the meetings that we're holding, these meetings where librarians are coming in providing testimony, we're developing an improved sense of library services throughout the state of Vermont. I want to thank Tom McMurdo for doing good work in convening the working group and beginning the process of gathering that testimony. The video of the series of 4 meetings, each of them in 2 parts, is available online. And I've been making my way through the testimony so that I can also, even though I missed the first 3 meetings, have a good sense of the challenges and opportunities that we have. And I encourage you to do the same, to look at any of those videos. Our team has been trying to engage the staff of school, public, and academic libraries in providing testimony on the topics. And just so you have a sense of how that goes, last meeting, the meeting on facilities on March 25th, we heard from 11 members of the library community who provided live testimony in either the morning or afternoon portion of the meeting. And then 22 individuals provided written testimony, which is available online. We will be moving those Word documents to be PDFs, because I think that that's going to make them the most accessible to the public and the easiest for people to open, and also preserve exactly what folks wrote without editing or anything. So I'm also going to be working with Josh Muse, who's been a big support throughout this project, and also of the Board of Libraries meetings. And we're going to work together to make a link directly to the working group's page from our Vermont Libraries homepage, so that work is front and center, so people in the community know how to get to that area and to watch or read the testimony themselves. We're also going to be making it more clear how members of the public and library staff can provide testimony on various topics within the work group's purview, even if they can't be at the meeting. How do they do the written testimony? Providing them again with an email and a phone number. So it's been a little bit confusing for all of us how we can, in 12 meetings, do all of the work that's needed and generate a report. We're going to have a brief meeting of the working group to just talk process and some ideas that I have for focusing smaller work groups to begin synthesizing and summarizing the findings of the different hearings, and potentially having staff from our team help as well, because the Vermont Library staff can provide administrative support. So that'll be taking place at the end of April, on Friday, April 29th from 10 to 11. That's an open meeting. And then we have our next meeting of testimony on the topic of technology on Friday, May 20th from 9 to 11, and then from 1 to 3. The group suggested last time that we shift the meetings a little bit earlier, potentially making it easier for some of our colleagues to attend. So we're trying that different time for the 2 sessions. I wanted to also share a legislative update with you. Through our capital bill, Governor Scott has included a request for $15.9 million of federal ARPA funds. ARPA stands for American Rescue Plan. Those are funds that states requested in support of projects that they have locally, and then the legislature needs to approve the proposed spending, needs to go back to the feds for final review, and then potentially we could see that money. So that's still working its way through the Senate. What we've asked for with relation to libraries is support for improvements to our libraries that ensure Vermonters have internet access needed to perform core functions such as email communication, virtual medical and legal appointments, other things that you need a more robust internet connection for. The reason for that is that across the country, there's been a demonstrated need for this type of internet connectivity and the technology to use the internet. And it's really been highlighted during the digital divide when lots of us went online, lots of other folks couldn't. So to do work, to go to school, to have a telehealth visit, they just were completely cut off. So what we're trying to do here is to ensure that for now and for the future, that libraries have the facilities that they need to continue providing that service uninterrupted. So we envision that projects could range from something as simple as just adding an ADA ramp, adding a ramp that people with limited mobility can use so that they can access the library unfettered, to making clear pathways through the library, bringing things up to today's ADA versus the ADA code at the time that the building was last renovated. It could even mean improvements to HVAC systems to improve air circulation and filtration, as we know that that's really a key element in a pandemic situation, such as we've been experiencing. It could even be something like making sure that the windows are operable. It could be any kind of improvement that increases the airflow and increases our ability to use the building to use the internet, specifically around the internet is how it's focused in the guidance from the Treasury. I just want to give some kudos to the team here in the State Library, Tom McMurdo and Jeanette Schaefer. Some good thinking went into the proposal because in addition to the $15 million for the capital projects, our Department of Libraries ask is also for $900,000 to fund 2 limited service positions that would help our team to administer the $15 million in federal funds while not grinding to a halt with all of the other things that we do in our library Department of Libraries. My understanding is that the capital bill has been approved by the House and is now with the Senate. And there's another congressional update, which is that we have been hearing from libraries around the state that their aging facilities need maintenance or updates so that staff can continue to provide modern library services. And we know that the $15 million that's really specific to maintaining internet access isn't the whole need in Vermont. And it's possible that some capital improvement projects that libraries need to remain open fall outside the scope of the federal ARPA funds that we're seeking through the capital bill. So we also have a sense that some of those improvements needed will be smaller projects in the 4 to 6 figure range, and so probably wouldn't on their own be recipients of congressionally directed spending. For that reason, we have requested, I'm stammering as I say it, we've requested a lot of money this year. We've requested another $10 million of congressionally directed spending funds from Senator Leahy's office. And our hope is that if we receive that federal funding, we would then subgrant the funding out to public libraries throughout the state for improvements that are needed that would be kind of in the realm of emergency needs. So those are the 2 things that are still in progress, and that the congressionally directed spending process could take quite a while to play out. So we'll probably know about the capital bill. If that goes through, that funding, that 15.9, we would know that sooner. And this congressionally directed spending, we would know about that maybe not until the fall. It can take, or even longer. It can take quite a while on the federal level from what we understand for that to play out. While we're still talking about ARPA funds, those American Rescue Plan funds, I know that Tom had shared with you that we received more than $2 million in ARPA funding this year through the Institute of Museum and Library Services Grants to States program. And I know that you were updated previously that more than $900,000 was already distributed to public libraries across the state through the Grants to Public Libraries and Equipment and Supply Purchases program. Those funds from IMLS were leveraged locally by public libraries to purchase equipment so that they could provide continuous service to their communities during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're about to issue a second round of IMLS ARPA grants, and that's going to go to public libraries. And we are making over $300,000 in grant funding available to public libraries for one-time purchases. And those purchases are pending Vermont Library and Vermont Department of Libraries and IMLS approval. And we're opening that program on April 15th. And Jeanette's team will be hosting an informational session that day to support libraries around the state in applying for the funding. So it might feel a little bit deja vu. We're in the process of closing the earlier grant process. We have this remaining funding. So we're doing a second round of grants. But in addition to requesting equipment, we're also strongly encouraging that public libraries use this funding to enhance their equity, diversity, and inclusion collections, their New American collections to support folks with physical differences in the, potentially ADA differences, and also to support multilingual library collections. And we're encouraging people to request this funding also for formal diversity audits. Those would need to be pre-approved, but we really are trying to look at diversity in our library collections throughout the state. We initially thought maybe we would have a diversity, equity, inclusion collection here that then people borrowed, but we realized it's important for Vermonters to see themselves in their libraries. So we have this idea of doing grants to libraries and providing some potential order lists to folks so that they have some help in selecting materials. And the final thing with the ARPA funds is that we also used some of those IMLS ARPA funds to purchase collections for Vermont's 6 correctional facilities, allocating about $8,000 to each collection, I believe. And we're also reaching out to other state institutions that we routinely support to offer collections refresh. These purchases would aid in restoring access to print materials to these underserved community members whose access to library materials was disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. So that's kind of where we are with those additional funding streams right now. A couple more fun things coming up. Get ready for summer reading. I hate to tell you, it's April 12th, but it's almost summer for us because we are granting out $300 to 142 public libraries that have applied for funds to support programs for youth at public libraries across the state with the Oceans of Possibilities theme. We participate in this national collective of statewide summer reading, and our statewide theme is Oceans of Possibilities. And so we've been busy with signing documents, doing grant compliance. It's been pretty frantic, and big thanks to Lucy Fortier and our team, who is our grants and contracts administrator. She has started with us recently. She keeps everything moving and is really great at making sure that we are fully compliant with the federal processes. We also have another exciting thing coming up, which is that in partnership with Vermont Humanities and Vermont College of Fine Arts, we are going to be hosting the Vermont Book Awards celebration of Vermont writers on April 30th. It's going to be in person at 7 o'clock at Vermont College of Fine Arts Alumnix Hall. And there will be prizes awarded for best poetry, best fiction, and best creative nonfiction books published by Vermont authors in 2021. This program will be a dessert reception with a cash bar, and it will be followed by a brief program featuring the winning authors. And I've heard there are surprise guests, but I don't even know who the surprise guests might be. So it will be a surprise for all of us. And we're also planning to announce our Vermont Reads 2022 choice during the event. And this is a ticketed event, and it's available through Eventbrite. Whew, that was a lot of information, but I got you the report very late, and I apologize for that. I didn't realize I was to send it until last night. So I wanted to just review everything in case somebody didn't see the report that I shared yet. So thank you for your attention, and I can take any questions, and members of my team can help with questions too.
I have a question.
Kathy.
Kathy, I want to congratulate you for not only a wonderful report, but to also jump in with both feet, or four, whatever. Getting up to speed so quickly. I'm very, very impressed, and I'm happy you're here. We have something in common. I started as librarian in New Jersey as well, but a lot earlier than you did. So we're happy you're here, and wonderful report, and very, very, so many areas, and I don't know how you're doing it all right now.
Well, remember, there are just 18 people in the Department of Library staff, so I don't know how they've been doing it all, but I'm thankful and appreciative that they have been, and happy to report out on everything that's in progress. Thank you.
That's great. I have a very small question, and it's just, I don't even know why I'm asking it. When you say you encourage libraries, how does one encourage? Do you tell them this is a priority? Do you say, hey, if you have anything else in mind, we're not going to look at this favorably? Is that just a subtle nudge? I mean, it's great. I like the idea that.
Yeah, I see that Jeanette is ready to jump in, which is great. Jeanette Schaefer oversees this work, and I'd love for her to share out how she's encouraging folks.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is really truly an encouragement. So what I've been doing is made really strong language and prioritizing on the webpage and put that at the top about the diversity collection. I will also spend more time on the diversity collection piece in my webinar and just really encourage folks. Of course, you have libraries that already have a very strong diversity collection and others are just starting. So it runs the gamut. And when I respond, when people say, well, can I buy a computer for my patrons? I will also remind them and say, yes, you may, that is allowable. You might also set aside some funds for either boosting or building from scratch your diversity collection. So it is a strongly recommended, but I'm not going to not approve budget items for public computers or other items that they desperately need as well. So that we're really leaving it up to them ultimately.
So nobody could accuse you of discriminating the other way around.
No, and we really can't, because the way IMLS wrote what these funds are for is very broad, and there's just really no way we can force the issue besides encouragement. Encouragement is sort of our mode anyway, since we have no jurisdiction. Kathy, you have comment.
Yeah, one thing that Jeanette did a great job with was crafting the announcement of the award. So when the email went out, of the grant opportunity rather, so when the email went out to the libraries, they saw kind of above the fold, the top part of the email talks about those collections that we're encouraging people to bolster. And I think she even did like a bulleted list of which ones. And so then it says, you can also get these other things and list some of the other things, but really trying to boost it even visually and through the language that she crafted for the announcement, which I thought was really great because people will see this is the top thing we'd really like you to do. And then if you missed something that you really need to support programs, you can apply for that too, but the top focus.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Linda, why not? Yeah, Linda, jump in front of me and then I'll follow up later.
Thanks, Bruce. Kathy, I too want to welcome you and thank you for that great report. And you know the purpose of getting it out ahead of time is simply so you don't have to read it to us, so we don't have to try to absorb all that information because we'll all look at it ahead of time. But that's thrilling about all the money that is coming our way, and I have, or could be coming our way, I guess, depending on what Congress does. But I have a question about the broadband internet access at libraries, that first tranche of money that you were talking about, the 15.9 million, I think. There are a number of organizations in Vermont or groups in Vermont that are working on internet access. You seem to be focusing that money specifically on libraries, but I wonder if you're coordinating also with there are the communication union districts in all over Vermont, and then there's also, I think there's a broadband commission or something that's sort of statewide. It seems to me that all of these organizations need to coordinate their work. It's so desperately needed. You know, we had in Weston, we had a local elementary school teacher who was supposed to be teaching remotely, didn't have access at her home. And so she drove over to the library and sat outside in her car teaching her class, which was just terrible. So anyway, that's neither here nor there, but I wondered what sort of coordination you're encouraging.
So I want to clarify something about the funds, and then I love that Tom is just ready to jump in and he can share sort of what we're doing to coordinate on the broadband itself. These funds would be for things that are the physical shell of the library, the building itself. These funds would not be funds for new broadband equipment or new wiring or anything like that. Basically, this capital funding stream for the library, for the Vermont libraries, that way that we're envisioning it is there's something about your building itself that precludes people getting in the door and accessing the internet. There's something there. It could be there's a hole in the roof over the internet computers, or there's a leak. It could be there's not an ADA ramp, or the computers are up 3 stairs inside the building. And you want to put in a small elevator or a stair lift. There could be any number of physical things about the building. So these funds would be focused on kind of the physical plants at the public libraries, but there is coordination going on throughout the state, and Vermont Department of Libraries is part of that. And Tom, I wonder if you can share a little bit more about that aspect, because I know you've been more involved, and that's on our to discuss list. My learning's not up to Tom's speed yet.
So yes, there's so much going on at the Department of Libraries, and this is just one of many things. So yeah, we have been working with groups that the Broadband Board, Josh attends those meetings. We are also involved with a group that's run by the federal government. Josh is also attending those as well. So we are following broadband deployment in the state through the communication union districts, the CUDs, and following that funding as well. We are looking at how we can leverage libraries within those systems, and we are doing our best to try to get either discounted or free service from those providers. So that's kind of the angle we're taking on that, is that as you build these out, the library can be the hub. It can be the first place that you go to, and then you build out from there, that kind of thing. So kind of the dream of Fiber Connect, perhaps for the 2020s, a little further along, where we are looking at how within the efforts that are happening and all that money that's flowing to the communication union districts, how we can position libraries within that as kind of anchors for those systems. So that's one way that we've been looking at that. I think just to put a fine point on what Kathy has said about the funding, there's really 2 funding streams. So the funding that we're asking for, the 15.9 million we've asked for, is coming out of the capital fund. So that money really is for building construction, as Kathy said. And then the money that went to the CUDs is actually specifically for broadband expansion. That's one of the great things about the ARPA funds in relation to Vermont, is that we are going to see a state-of-the-art fiber network in this state within 5 years, which seemed like a dream a couple of years ago. But I think now, and I believe it will change the fabric of Vermont. All those folks that can work from anywhere are going to come here and they're going to use that fast internet. So we just need some housing for them, I think. But anyway, I digress. Point being that, yeah, just to follow up, we are very much involved in the broadband efforts and trying to position ourselves in libraries kind of in the forefront of those efforts.
That's great. Thank you.
Hi, this is Bruce. Actually, two questions. First of all, looping back to the diversity inclusion issue and rolling out materials, has Vermont seen any negative reaction to this stuff that I think has been going on in other states with some libraries over what materials are in the library? So that's question one. I'll delay on question two.
So with question one, we have been kind of preparing for this in libraries in Vermont for a long time, in that our team has been providing guidance around collection development policies, procedures that libraries might have in place if there's a book challenge, which I think we have. I'm looking for wood on my desk. I'm superstitious that way. We haven't seen the type of challenges that I'm hearing about from colleagues at other states. I think that may be because of the nature of Vermonters, that they're fiercely independent and that they let other people be. That could be part of it, but I wouldn't doubt that we could see those challenges. So our team is encouraging folks to take some of the trainings available at the national level and to keep apprised of those things. I was just reading the American Library Association's annual kind of State of America's Libraries report, and it's pretty clear that at the national level, I think there have been, this was kind of a banner year for book challenges, and I want to say that there were something like 700 plus official challenges that that were fielded. And when they looked at what these materials are, it was frequently materials that featured African American individuals as subjects, or that might have been written by African American individuals, and also people in the LGBTQI community. So these are really targeted challenges. So it's something that we are watching, and I'm very hopeful that it will not be as severe here as in some other places, but definitely something on our radar.
Thank you. Question two, and maybe Jeanette is best positioned to answer this. Where are we? What's happened with the Golden Dome Book Award, formerly known as the Dorothy Canfield Fisher Book Award? How's that been going? Have we had 1 or 2 seasons under our belts? How's participation? How about authors submitting things, whatever, for nomination? I just don't know.
Yeah, so I think this might be our second full season. You know, you lose time with COVID, but yes, I think it is. It hasn't missed a beat. Nobody has been complaining about it not being the Dorothy Canfield Fisher Award anymore. People are moving forward. We have beautiful stickers for all 3 book awards that sort of, they're cohesive. So we have nice look and feel to the whole thing. It's gotten branded, so I can share that with you. But basically they're gold little stickers that have the domes, the outline of the dome just in them, and then the red clover is a red sticker with the red clover, and then the Green Mountain Book Award is, as you might guess, a green book. So I can share those visuals with you, but it hasn't missed a beat, and it's going strong, and students are just as excited about the Golden Dome. Vermont Golden Dome Book Award, as they were about the previous iteration. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, and just, you know, to refresh people, Jeanette really chaired the advisory group we had that included 3, I guess, students, as well as we elicited nominations for names and then winnowed them down, and then we went forward and made decisions. So Jeanette did a great job. The people who participated did a great job, and I'm just glad it's happening, because it should be about the books and the readers, and not necessarily the name of the award. And that's not meant to dishonor Mrs. Fisher's contributions to literature in Vermont either. Those of us who are on the board know a lot about it, but I'm really glad to see this is going on. And as you say, it hasn't missed a beat. Thank you, Jeanette.
Fancy call me back later.
Thank you, Bruce.
So we had 4 hands, or is there another one? I think. Oh, 3 raise their hands now. Okay, there you go.
Well, if nobody else is going to jump in, I'll jump in. This is Deb. I also wanted to thank Kathy for the incredibly detailed report and jumping in, as Maxie said, with all 4 feet or 2 feet or whatever it was. So thank you. Just a little thing to add to your thoughts around the library system in Vermont. The little library in Weston that Linda and I serve on the board of is going through its first ever strategic planning process in its like 150, 160 year history. And we had a community input gathering meeting last night. And one of the things that came out of that meeting, which I don't really know where I stand on this at all, but I'm just sort of throwing it out onto the table for Kathy and staff to be thinking about, was the notion that particularly small libraries who have little budgets and little opportunity for large staffs and that kind of thing. So the idea was our library wants to do all these things, and everybody thought that sounded so wonderful. And then somebody asked, with resources being limited, is there a way that, that there can be some sort of collaboration between local small libraries? And Vermont sort of has a tradition of, very strong local control, and nobody really wants to, I don't mean to say they don't want to work with anybody else, but they want their own little fiefdom and they want to do it the way they want to do it. But, Kathy, I'm just thinking of your experience. Now, I realize in San Francisco, they all were under the umbrella of the San Francisco Library, but you certainly had to deal with lots of branches that may have had their own ideas of how they wanted to do something. And actually, maybe there's even a different way to be looking at this, which is not so much around programming and things like that, but maybe it's around administrative services, like paying bills and organization stuff like that. Anyway, I'm just raising that as a thought going forward for how small libraries might get better bang for their buck.
Yeah, Deb, it's so interesting that you are raising that question or idea. When Tom and I were out visiting some libraries last Wednesday, we learned that the Mad River libraries, while they are not officially connected, they have been programming together. They've been publicizing their programming together. And so the people who have the Jocelyn Library in Waitsfield, and then the community members who go to the Warren Library, and then the folks who go, now I'm forgetting, Moortown?
Moortown.
More time, I got it. Okay, so those 3 libraries, the directors have been meeting and their teams have been meeting, and they plan kind of a calendar of events for the Mad River together. They've even made up a little logo for Mad River Libraries, and there's you can see some Mad River Library pride is happening, where they're excited because they're boosting the reach of their audience, and they have different strengths. So one of the library directors has a naturalism background, and another loves to cook, and so cumulatively, they are providing a whole host of programs, and they have reciprocity between borrowers across their communities. So, so if they also think about who's open on which days, working with their other local library partners to say, well, our community thinks of itself as the Mad River community. Let's try to have, if we're closed, you're open. If each of us can only be open a few days a week or 5 days a week, let's stagger it so that we are serving everybody every day, which I thought was just great, and a very innovative and collaborative approach to serving the whole community. The challenge, I think, for Vermont libraries is that even among the libraries we're talking about, the funding streams are different. What financially each can contribute to the activity might be different. For libraries who have decided to not have user fees in a certain geographic area, that might be easier than if there's a user fee on something. But also with the public programs, it's one thing if you can't borrow, you can almost always go to a public program that's open to the whole community. So I really like that they thought about this in terms of programming, because it also helps to grow the audience for the programs and to spread the messages of the programs and what the learning further. So I think that we can look at some of those aspects, and certainly the staffing conversation that the working group on the status of Vermont libraries. I would expect that we'll hear some interesting things during that staffing conversation on this theme. But some of the things too that we do here, something like statewide summer reading, that we are part of this collaborative, that everybody doesn't have to make their own graphics. They can certainly do that if they wish, but that throughout the state, we have one state message for how we're encouraging kids to participate in summer reading. So that group marketing seems like a really key piece too.
Thank you. That was very interesting. Thank you.
Oh, Maxie, I think you're muted.
Okay.
Maxie, I think you're muted.
You have to unmute.
Yeah, I did. It sounds extremely exciting, and I think the more resources we can share among libraries, developing collections in one library and then building on the strength of the other one. I think even if it's in its infancy right now, it could really grow. And I know geography can sometimes, there are mountains in between little libraries, but I think I would really encourage any kind of that kind of partnership. It would be very exciting, and I've been a proponent of this for many years. And I think there's a trend, not just in libraries, but overall, police departments, school departments, to share resources or in administrative skills. So, wonderful beginning.
Quick question. Has this been a topic on the working group at all, or would it be going forward? Because I think Deb makes a good point. I mean, there are small libraries, there are medium-sized libraries, and then there are the big, big libraries. And so maybe Tom could weigh in on that, because something that is more than just encouragement, but examples or ideas might be something worthwhile coming out of the working group.
I think that this would be in the staff topic that we are probably likely to hear, and that's not the next meeting, but it's 2 meetings from now that we'll be doing the topic of staff. Jeanette is sharing with me in a chat that one thing that has come up regularly for the small and rural roundtable conversations, we do regular meetings of libraries of different sizes and within geographic areas. And she's heard those requests for assistance with professional tasks like bookkeeping or technical support. So that is a theme that has been heard about. And I think we're likely to see, we're likely to hear testimony and to receive written testimony on these topics. So I think it's definitely something we should think about as far as, once we've heard from people and heard their experiences and what their needs are, think about what does the working group recommend around this, and what are some ideas. I think the key things that small libraries often have trouble with is really the publicity of events, the processing of materials, which can be done more now by kind of the jobbers, like your books can come pre-processed, but it's more expensive. And then the bookkeeping aspect seems to be outside people's comfort zones. And with the small amount of time that they have, those are some of the key areas. But Tom or Jeanette, if you wanted to share additional info, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I just want to add to the complication. You had already mentioned the funding streams are so different for the different libraries. And when we talk about professional, like accounting services and things like that, that always comes up. They wish they had a pool that they could, or vendor that they could share and just, buy hours from, or however they would pay into the system. That is then additionally complicated by the fact that some of them are attached to municipalities, and while the municipality has bookkeepers, the libraries don't necessarily have access. So it's because they're 185 libraries, there are 185 different models of how it can go, but it is something we hear all the time, and we would like to solve somehow in the future. Thanks.
Well,
I was going to say we might have another. I just want to make sure that we do have time, Kathy, so you can talk about the foundation. So maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and then you can bring us an update on the library foundation. There's another hand.
Oh,
yeah.
Tom,
yeah, the hand
just
been raised. Yeah, okay.
I just wanted to add 2 things. One, this has been a discussion about how we can increase cooperation between libraries. Since my first day at the Department of Libraries, it is a charge that we have been figuring out different ways to do, and I think we've had some limited success so far. Encouraging these kind of things. I often talk about now that we have this state-of-the-art interlibrary loan system, that we could explore ways to do collective collection development. So different libraries may specialize in certain types of books that could then go through the interlibrary loan system. The second thing is that I think that we're a reminder of that Vermont independence is coming about in Essex, where they're going through essentially a divorce. So Essex Junction and the Village are splitting. So oftentimes there's pressure going the other direction. So yeah, so that's all I will add. Thank you.
Having come from Essex, I won't weigh in on that. I've been pretty involved in it, but we did until the Junction decided it wanted to leave. We were actually sharing some services. We shared police, for instance, and that should continue. We shared the finance manager. We shared clerk and things like that. And then the Village decided to go. So there are possibilities. And as I think about the working group report, a big audience of the working group report, I think, will be legislators. As I think most legislators think of their local library and have had wonderful experiences with it. But I don't think they understand the totality of libraries in Vermont. And I never use the term Vermont library system because I frankly don't think we have a system. It's a collection of libraries and to do various different things. And I think that's a big part of the working group report. I think this is what Ruth Hardy was driving at, is to really elevate the base of knowledge, not only among libraries and the public, but legislators themselves. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Kathy, if you could mention bring us update on the foundation.
Sure. So the topic of the Vermont Public Library Foundation has been something that folks have had questions about. Members of the board have asked me one-on-one about it. And I've been really trying to look into the files we have here in the city, I'm sorry, in the state librarian's office, look at the bylaws of this body, which I'll call VPLF because that's a little bit less of a mouthful. So far, and I've also done some talking with council to try to develop a good sense of how that organization, which was established as how that foundation, which was established as a 501c3, how does it relate to the Vermont Department of Libraries? How does it relate to the Vermont Board of Libraries? And my understanding, really, after seeking some counsel within the state, is that it's a completely separate entity, that it was established through statute by the Vermont State Librarian in the past, and it continued, and the Vermont State Librarian has historically served as the president on the VPLF. But really, it's a separate thing from the Vermont Department of Libraries. And so there are many, many questions that I am still looking into. And the way that I'm looking into it, it's actually the case that the Attorney General's office is not the appropriate counsel for the questions that I have about VPLF, that we need separate independent counsel because it is a separate independent entity. And I know over the years, various members of the Vermont Board of Libraries have served on the VPLF, on that foundation. I also know that the foundation has not met since, I think, 2017. And per the bylaws, it's supposed to meet annually. So there are a number of things that I need to get some counsel from an independent attorney. And I have an initial preliminary appointment set up for this Friday to just sort of frame out the types of things that I'm trying to find out, including who is the current board. Is the current board that board from the last time that a meeting took place? Is the current board the board names that are listed on the website right now? Because I know some of you had stepped up in the past to serve on the VPLF. But I wanted to just, I'm glad, Tom, that you reminded me that it's just important for us all to kind of bear in mind that it's a separate entity with its own kind of its own mission and its own goals and its own bylaws, and that it's distinct from both the Department of Libraries and from the Vermont Board of Libraries. Even though some of us may have positions in VPLF, it's a separate thing, which that much was what I gleaned from my conversation with council so far, that I understand that pretty well. And I think that I just wanted to share that that's the direction that we're going forward in. There is some money in that foundation's bank accounts, and the money from that foundation will be used to support any attorney fees or CPA fees, just as it has in the past. So I wanted to just be clear and kind of on the record that the Vermont Department of Libraries monies will not be supporting that, and that there's sort of a barrier, kind of a line drawn there between the two organizations and their fiscal arms.
Question.
Yeah, Maxie. Yep.
I can't remember, but who was the person from Manchester who served on the board? Bruce, do you remember the person from Manchester?
We had somebody from Manchester on the board.
Was it Middlebury? And
Oh,
he,
we had
Jim?
Jim Gish.
yeah,
And
Did-
he was on the board of the VPLF for a while.
Yeah.
And, you know, he left our board and I'm sure Jim Gish, who was
Yeah.
planning lowering the trains going through Middlebury, has not thought about the VPLF ever since, so.
Well, he thought about it on Wednesday night because Jim and I were on a panel together. And at the end of the panel, so when we took our tour of libraries, it culminated, it was sort of inspired by the need to go to Middlebury to be on a panel for their Friends of the Library group, talking about what is a library, just as a really open-ended question. And Jim was seated immediately next to me. And so at the end of it, I said, Jim, you're on a sticky note. Your name is on a sticky note on my desk, people I need to talk to. So I'm going to follow up with Jim and set up a time to speak with him. And he's looking for back information. He was on the board in 2017 at the last meeting that was held.
yeah, I seem to remember that. Good.
I would say one concern that's been brought up in the past is that afraid that the state could then just take the funds. The issue is the state doesn't have any control over it any more than we have control over it. It's an independent foundation and it's its own entity. And, you know, a couple of things to say, Kathy's looking into it because the foundation is supposed to be giving away a minimum of 5% of its assets per year. That's what foundations do. So there's a lot of things that have to be done, but Kathy will get some legal advice on that. All right.
Indeed. And to clarify too, it is completely separate. Me showing up at the bank with Tom trying to get added to the bank account. My business card did not work. We need the foundation to write a letter saying that I'm the current head of it, president of it. It is a completely separate body, and I think that that's going to be interesting as this plays out. There is something in the bylaws about if the foundation dissolved, how would the money be dispersed? What would happen with that money? And it does include in that end of the end portion of the bylaws talks about if this foundation ceases to exist for whatever reason, if they decide to do that, or if legally they've been dissolved, then the money could be given to an appropriate state agency. I mean, I think it could even go to the Department of Libraries if the foundation decided that's what it wanted to do. But there's no arm for taking that money out of the bank account from the state. There's no fear of that happening.
Okay.
I think, again, not an attorney here, but.
Yeah. Yeah, so that just wanted to bring an update on that. So we have about 10 minutes left, 9 minutes left. So any other questions of Kathy or any words from you, Kathy, before we start to wrap it up?
I think we have one more thing on the agenda, which was email addresses.
Oh, that's right. Yep,
and
that
I
was
can
the
do
last
that
thing
really
on there.
quickly. Yeah, there's no action needed. I just wanted to share with you. In that same realm, I'm somewhat thorough, and I strive to be thorough. And one of the things I've been doing is looking at the open meeting law, because as secretary of this body and hosting the working group meetings, I want to be sure I'm serving on the 250th commemoration commission. I want to be sure that I'm doing my part correctly. And one thing that has something I've noticed when looking at other boards of other state agencies is that often the board members have a vermont.gov email address. And so I was trying to find out why that is versus why you all don't, and what is behind that. And still looking into it, but it seems like it's probably a best practice to set up vermont.gov emails for members of boards such as the Vermont Board of Education has for its board members, for example, so that we can be sure that if there's a records retention issue or a public information request, that the state can just kind of do a data scrape of its own email addresses that were given to you all, versus having to reach out to you, as has been done in the past, having our information officer saying, oh, hey, did you retain this email on blah, blah, blah topic? I think it may have come to you, and we have a public information request. So my sense is that by issuing each board member of the Vermont Board of Libraries a vermont.gov email, that would help us with data retention, because we would teach you about the data retention policies of the state. And we would also ease everybody's work in searches that are done with public information requests. It could also help to keep, what's in it for you. It's another place to log on to potentially. It could also help you keep your private life private, so that in 6 years, you're no longer on the board, or Bruce, they'll never let you off. So when you finally roll off the board, everybody's not still pinging you in your own personal email as a board member. And it could also help to kind of create a little bit of a distance. This is the formal role. This is my personal life. So I'm still looking into this, and I think that I want to have a little bit more information before I come back recommending anything, or before we set those up. But I just wanted to share just that brief update with you, so that you understood why we were looking at that, and what the reasoning for it would be. I know having multiple emails isn't necessarily easier for any of you. We initially also thought these could forward to your personal emails, but when we tried to set it up, there was a prohibition against that. So those are questions, technical questions I want to ask. I think that part of the reason for that is it's best to reply from your state library email. So we need to get a little bit more information, but I just wanted to share with you that that's something kind of percolating.
Well, let me just add too, I think under Negro Brook, I had to, we did get a request for public information from the main petitioner, and I had to go back through my emails and see what I had. And of course, I filter out my private stuff. But I did find things. I saved it all and did have to submit it. So that stuff happens.
Yeah, as Bruce knows, I'm picky about the open meeting law. So yeah, I think the state emails are fantastic. Was I on the Vermont Library Board? We had a Milton. I had a Milton email address because it's open. It's up public information. Anything we talk about this, it's public. What person has their hand raised?
This is Deb, and I realize that we're at 5 minutes to the end, but and I hate to bring up an albatross, but I will, because maybe, Kathy, it's something that hasn't crossed your desk, but it is something that has been on the horizon for a while, and that is library standards. So we had library standards. They were up for revision. They didn't get revised, and who knows where they stand right now. It used to be that all the libraries, tried to come, or most of the libraries tried to comply with library standards 3 state librarians. So it just might be something to put on your list. Yeah.
It is on our list as far as things that we hear from folks about, and also things that we're hoping can be informed by the working group's efforts.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing, just a general note, there are sometimes libraries who think, well, now you're here, just decide things. You're here. Why aren't you doing this, and this? my approach to things from our, to get back to our agenda topic, the emails, my approach to it is really to get some information, to gather that, to get advice on it, to learn about how did we get here, why did we get here, what's working, what's not working, and then work with the group to develop the next steps. So you'll see, I think you'll probably, today was sort of everything in the kitchen sink and the updates, but in the future, when I get those reports to you a little bit earlier, I can highlight topics that I really want your input on in that way. So that, for me, it's good to hear that the emails in general are something that you see the benefit of going with the Vermont.gov email, and that there's an understanding of it versus just me showing up and saying, you need them, here they are. I don't want to jostle people. I want to hear from you first on topics. So, and I think something like standards, Deb, could be like a 2-year work group, to be honest, after the working group. I think that it's a huge topic and there are so many different elements to it. Not something we can.
Well, and as a matter, no, I understand that. And as a matter of fact, that's kind of why it kept getting pushed further to the back burner, because we were grappling with the question of whether we actually, not what should the standards be, but do we actually want standards? So, it's a big question. Yeah, I get it.
Okay, so we'll bring that up in the future. Let's say our next meeting date will be July, what's the second Tuesday in July? Everybody got a calendar?
I have it on the website, but it's the 12th, July 12th.
The 12th, okay. July 12th, okay. So the next board meeting, 12th, and get that, and we'll have the minutes from this meeting. Yep, they'll be on the website, and if you could send out an email with a link to that, that would be fantastic. Any other last parting words? Because we're supposed to end at noon.
Will we meet from 10 to 12 on the 12th, on July 12th as well?
Right, 10,
okay.
10, yeah, we've always had them from 10 to 12.
Very good.
Because when we were traveling, that gives people with state the chance to travel, and then usually we did them in the meeting because I think you're less busy, and then you had the, more meetings in the afternoon or whatever. It was always 10 to 12, and we've never had any problems with it. So.
Okay.
I have a last minute.
Yep.
I have 1 minute. We informally talked about having a retreat at some point. So I'm just putting this into the mind of everybody. I know there have been a couple of very successful retreats, getting to know each other, maybe even being able to meet in person. So I'm just mentioning this as a possibility. Oops, one more. New library advisory committee board members. Should we go out and start to recruit? I mean,
yes. Yeah, our group. We need new members for Deb and Bruce.
Okay.
Technically, so yes, and I sent an email off to one person. I'm trying to remember his name, but to get some Abenaki representation, I got to do it again because I didn't have a telephone number, and I haven't got a response yet. So I'll send another email or two.
Should we, as a board, and Deb, you remember when we were on the VPR board, should we kind of look at this and having priorities, maybe even geographic distribution? I know that the Bennington area is not very well represented. The Brattleboro area is not very well represented. The in-between, maybe not either. There is a name that Robin gave me the other day, Chris Morrow from the North Shire Bookshop. And I don't know him personally. He's in Manchester. So I'm just putting this out as a.
Yeah, send that information off for to Kathy, and then think they check, and then also usually consult with me or whatever, and then
Fine.
Yeah, and also remember somebody that would represent children, a parent that with young children that want to do. So we want to get, speaking of diversity, not just geographic, but there, other areas as well.
Just as we're closing, thinking about the next step. So if you all have ideas for board members, I believe you can just send them directly to me and Tom. Don't tell the whole group, just email, or to make it simpler, just email me and I'll connect with Tom, because I don't want you to accidentally, knowing the open meeting stickler Tom is, and that I strive to be. Let's keep, if you need to communicate, just go straight to me and then I'll work with Tom on it. But if you have things you think we should prioritize, you could send those to me too. We can bring this back on the future agenda, probably, since it sounds like we need more time. But the July meeting, one question that you should all think about is, are we ready to go like an outdoor in-person meeting? Do we want to go back in person? Do we want to do hybrid? Do we want to continue this way? So maybe you could also email me separately about that with what each of you would like. I do want to offer that for James, we should go back to having whatever set up in this building for you all. If somebody doesn't have good connectivity for any of you, we can open up, we can have a space set up for you here so that you can be on camera, you can speak more easily, that it's more comfortable. So we can bring that service if we're going to do an online meeting in the future.
Aren't we supposed? Aren't we doing that for this meeting? We're supposed.
Yes.
I don't think that our ducks were.
Don't have to, depending on we have to have a local place. Okay, raised hand.
Yeah, this is Jeanette. So the requirement to have an in-person option has been temporarily lifted by the Secretary of State's office until 2023. But obviously, if we need one just to accommodate people's needs, but we don't have to anymore.
Okay, it was still I was extended to 2023. Okay, good.
Yeah, they reissued it.
Okay, good. Okay,
I think we can safely do that here, at least for board members, but potentially also for members of the public if we continue.
Right. Okay, I don't want to go too much over. And Bruce, my responsibility, so I'll give it to you. We need a motion to adjourn.
Well, I move that we adjourn.
Got a second? It's non-debatable motion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You can stay and talk to yourself. No, whatever. Anyway, I would really like to thank everybody. This is my first meeting as chair, and I don't think it went off the rails. That's good. Thank you for being kind to me. Yes, and thank you. Be kind to Kathy, and really appreciate that you're here and all the work that the staff and everybody is doing. So once again, thank you very much, folks. And you'll send us those email addresses or how we can get them, right, Kathy?
Oh, the Vermont.gov.
Yeah.
I'm going to get more information before we move over to them, but
okay.
Yeah, I just want to understand it fully, and so that you all, so I can explain to you all how to use them and things like that as well.
Very good. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Ciao all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.